there. Some do the upholstery, and others are doing the finishing, the tacking. And so that helps the factory, and it helps the people so that they don't have to train people straight. Because one of the problems with training people is that as soon as you finish the training, they are likely to leave. And so you finish training a craftsman, and he leaves, she leaves, and you then have nobody else to do the job. So get them to do little things, and you know how to put them all together. You have someone who can stitch it. This is the way you stitch it. You join these pieces together, and you get the whole full garment. Okay. So this is what we are talking about in terms of semi-converted material. So you will therefore need to store these things. If you're not going to make up the full garment, then you need to store them. So we need the warehouses. So we have got the, when you have finished your goods, the garments, if you're not ready to send them out, then you don't want them to be in the factory. You want to put them in the warehouse. So if you're going international, then it means that you are going to be building to order from people in different countries. And you want these dresses and suits to be in very good condition, and therefore you're not going to mix these orders up. So you're going to have them specially catalogued and arranged so that when you have sent to pick these garments up, so this is the picking, then they pick the right ones and they don't jumble these up. So we look at companies with mineral extracts. Just go back.
Okay.
So we're looking at mineral extracts, and one of the mineral extracts we're looking at oil and gas, hydrocarbons, oil and gas. So these oil and gas companies. So we have so many oil and gas companies coming to do our warehouse logistics, operations management courses, because they are extracting oil and gas. They need to understand how to store the oil and gas, how to store the drill bits, how to store the drill string, how to store the derrick hands. And so they come into the course to ensure that they can do this better when they go back, so that the company is not losing money. Because one of the things is that you order so many things. So some of the things we're going to be looking at is like inventory. And so that they're not going to be rushing, not understanding how to order and what to order and when not to order, and understanding what materials are being utilized and at the rate at which they are being utilized, etc. And so when they have extracted the oil and gas, then they are going to be storing these into upstream tank forms. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at there, just an example of the old upstream tank farms. The people in the gold mines, then again, they need to store the gold because this is not in its finest properties. It needs to be stored, the diamond needs to be stored because these are raw diamonds and they need to be catalogued, they need to be put into sizes, they need to be put into according to quality. The copper people, of course, they do the same thing. The bauxite, the people who mine silver, platinum, even the uranium needs to be categorized because they are different. So the warehouse will come very, very handy. So we're just explaining here in terms of the automobile manufacturers. The components are in, the manufacturer needs them, or the assemblers need them, or the people who supply the spare part to the garages, they need to get them. They need them in the warehouses so that as soon as the order comes in, then they can fulfill these orders. When the wholesalers make an order, then they need to be able to get these from the large warehouses. So we have central warehouses and we have local warehouses, and they take them from the central warehouses to the local warehouses, etc. As soon as they come off the ship, they need to have somewhere to store them so that they can be picked up.
Sorry. Let's just put it on mouse click.
Okay. So, we are saying then for the continuous flow of components, it prevents stock out. So can you imagine? You get an order and you have no thread of the particular grade. You have no fabric of the particular type to make the garment. You know that this is something you always use, but you did not have any in stock because there's no so that is stock out. You don't want the stock out, and therefore you store these things. You might find that there is, as we have experienced so many times, you import these items, for example, from China, and there is a rough sea. The ships can't come in, so you calculate that it's going to take you 6 weeks. But instead, they end up taking 10 weeks. Or it just so happened that the ship that came, it's too large to come into the port. So what are you going to do? They're going to stop in a particular deep water port. You're going to have to get a smaller vessel to take the things into your port. It's not your doing because you didn't organize it. But we're saying that this shipping company, this is where they do it because they had a great order. So people have consignment, all the consignment together required a big ship. They want to make saving, but they don't tell you that. So you're late, and there's nothing they can do about it or you can do about it. Your insurance won't cover it because it's not a major problem. But you should have something in your warehouse so that you are not going to have a problem. So you prevent stock out by having something in your warehouse. So we talk about material requirement planning. Material requirement planning means that you are going to have enough material based on what we call the economic order quantity, EOQ. And the economic order quantity means if you buy in bulk, then you are likely to save a lot. Now it depends on how you organize your production flow, how you organize your production system, how you organize your workers, how you process your orders. You might find that you save a lot with material requirements planning by buying in bulk. If you buy a number of companies or garment makers, for example, they buy fabric in bulk. And so the factories make these fabrics for them and they get them at rock bottom prices. What they mean is that they can even sell to their own competitors, and so they lose nothing. Now, this might not be suitable for you, but it depends. And therefore, you might want to use just in time. Just in time is good, but it is problematic because just in time means you don't purchase anything until you get an order. And as soon as you get the order, you have a lead time. And so your lead time for supplying the order may be 2 weeks. It means that you get the order today, you want the goods today. You want the raw materials today. And so if it's not possible, then it's not for you. You need to be able to store things and get it. One of the problems with just in time is that if there's industrial action, it affects you because you have no supply at all time. You're working on barest minimum stock. And so you only have maybe half a dozen, 2 dozen of one item. You want hundreds to be kept there. So the warehouse is then going to be your answer. So in other words, even if you operate just in time, you should still have a warehouse just in case there's a problem. And if there's a problem with the system, then you can counteract it. So many companies, automobile companies, for example, they have problems. People like Hewlett-Packard, that most of us know, produce the printers, and sometimes they claim they produce computers. They use just in time. But they only use just in time because they know the supply is just around the corner. So they can order and it comes within a few minutes. And the supplier set up the system where they can produce within an hour and send it by motorcycle or send it by a taxi, and they get the components to use. So that suits them best. But if you don't have the manufacturer of your raw material or semi-converted material just around the corner, then just-in-time is not for you. And there got to be many of them because you need it when you need it. So your warehouse is going to be crucial for you. Even when you develop your own suppliers and say this is the way you would work for just-in-time, then you still have to say, just in case your workers go on strike, they don't come to work today because there's a problem. We heard of so many disasters. A disaster occur, but you still need to produce because your customers are not saying, oh, there's a problem in Nepal. They're still expecting the Nepalese companies to fulfill their orders because their customers don't care whether or not there's an earthquake. So they're going to say there's a natural disaster, but there's no sympathy going. The sympathy will be that you have a backup, and the backup service is going to be in your warehouse. Thus, it is then important. So we're looking at things such as PVC resin. So we are looking at PVC resin. We're looking at aluminum broom. We're looking at pigments that are needed. The PVC resin comes in huge bulk, heavy stuff. And so you put it there, you need it to make your PVC vinyl. You need to make it the sheets. You need to extrude. But you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the materials. And so you have enough in the warehouse, and as soon as you need it, then you get it. You're keeping track of how much is there. So as soon as it gets to a level, then you reorder, stock it in your warehouse, then you bring it in the factory when you need it. Hide, leather, crude oil, fabric, gold bars, yogurt cultures. So you know, the people want yogurt. But if you don't have the culture, you can't make the yogurt. So you got to store it there. And therefore, you're going to find the type of warehouse that is necessary for you. You either build it yourself, purchase it yourself, or get other people to do it for you. In other words, it's already there. And so you take advantage of what is available commercially. Too fast. Okay, we talk about hedging. And so you're in garment manufacturing. If you suspect that the price of the fabric is going to be escalating, one, because you rely on cotton or you rely on silk, and you know that there's something wrong with the silkworms. There's something wrong with the silk supplier. There's something wrong with the cotton supplier. And so maybe there was a drought, and so the cottons did not come in fruition. You have to think of getting it from the States rather than getting it locally or getting it from the undeveloped countries, lesser developed countries where the price is low. If you think this is going to happen, then you're going to get as much of the fabric that you can get, more than you would normally use, with the hope that if you didn't use it, then it will be there. And when you think of the price that you would pay at the time when you need it, then you're going to make a huge saving. And therefore, that's hedging. Most companies, airline companies, gold jewelers, they hedge so that they know they look at the price of gold and they say all these events happening. There's so many wars, so many conflict, price of gold goes up. So whenever there's conflict, price of gold goes up. So people can hedge on gold, buy gold, and then as soon as the price goes up, they can sell it, and they can get money. Or they keep it, because they need to use it. So airline companies such as British Airways and Virgin Atlantic, from time to time, they hedge by buying a lot more oil than they need, excepting 2 years ago, British Airways bought a lot. They hedge against the price of oil by buying bulk oil. And Virgin had the same problem, but they bought far less oil. The price of oil went down. It meant that British Airways had a potential loss of millions, whilst Virgin came out laughing because they didn't hedge too much. So it's good to hedge, but then you don't want to hedge too much. If you hedge, it means that you need warehouses to store these. And so if they bought spot oil, then they need warehouse to store this oil. And so they are looking for people with farms, or terminal services in order to keep the oil there. So when they need it, then they can get it. Or get someone to refine it. Or they might want to sell it on and then buy the refined oil, because this is crude oil. And they don't use crude oil, they use refined oil. Okay, so this is an explanation then about the concept of hedging. Hedging is very, very important for every business, but you have to be sensible about it and predicting how the prices will go, what are the factors that affect the price rise or the price reduction. And then if you think that the factors attributing to the rise in price are evident, are eminent, in other words, it's most likely that they are going to surface, then you invest in the oil. And even if you don't, in the oil or the fabric, even if you don't invest in the fabric in physical terms, then you can do that in derivative term, mean that you can do the bet. So one of the videos I would love to play for you before you leave, you just write it for me, is one on derivatives. And we look at a company, I don't know if you know VW, do you know VW? VW as a company, yeah. Good. And you know Porsche, and so VW is one of the largest, if not the largest motor manufacturer in the world, because they don't just make VW, they make Audi, their own Audi. And so Porsche was making a bet against VW that the price of the shares are going to go up. Because the price of the shares are going to go up, they cornered the market, bought up most of the shares, and hung on to them. And so all the people who speculate in the rise in price of automobile shares thought that the price was going to go down, but did not know that Porsche had taken a sizable amount of these shares and hung on to them because they knew what was coming. And so as the people are looking for the shares, couldn't find them, didn't know that Porsche was the one who owned them. And as soon as the word got around, this is it. So they either say buy, or sell. And so here, the whole idea is short means buy, long sell. and so the whole idea is they therefore made billions of pounds from the shares because the price got up, because they bought the shares and kept them and the price got up. So they didn't want the company, they just want the money that the shares value. If they got the company, it would be second, because VW was so many times, and still is so many times, bigger than Porsche itself. Okay. So that's the whole thing in terms of the future. So the future price, what will be the future price? And so the future price then would be in terms of the value of the commodity in that period of time. So, either in your own warehouse, you're going to store this fabric, or you're going to store them in a third-party warehouse. So you're going to do a calculation of the cost that it will take you to run the warehouse, and the personnel that you would require, the heating that you require, and the security also that you will need, compared with the cost that you would pay a third party that already has a warehouse. So when you do that calculation, in terms of the maintenance, so you're looking at the concept of life cycle costing. So the concept of life cycle costing is you've got so much to spend to build the warehouse. You got so much to spend to maintain it. You got so much more to spend in terms of the personnel. You are costing all of this for the life of the building. How much is it going to cost you? Compared to the same period that you might be renting a warehouse from a third party. And you make a decision. So it may be that it's more economical for you to build your own, because the cost of building materials is far less expensive than in normal cases, and cut against the cost of renting. So you're thinking the building will last 15 years. And so you calculate the rent for 15 years for the warehouse and the security, etc. Check on the actual cost of material to build this, the contractors, the architects, and the maintenance of the warehouse. So every 2 years you got to do something. You got to do some painting. You got to do some re-roofing because the storms come and damage it, and so on. So you're going to do all that and make a decision in terms of whether or not it is good for you to have a warehouse of your own, or you're going to get other people to do it. Okay, so the finished goods you also need to store. Again, the security. You need to have them secure. You need to think in terms of weathering, whether or not the fabric can withstand particular adverse temperature, whether or not your finished garments, for example, if you had produced leather, what type of a temperature, what type of weather condition is idyllic for leather, and where this is possible in the warehouse.
Yeah, we're getting this problem for fabric.
Great.
Because we in our country, Bangladesh, we have six season. So in the rainy season, fabric getting more water.
Yeah.
Now it's hot, but the always in our country the temperature is high. Also the humidity also more.
Yes.
So always we getting this problem, and fabric is collecting the water from the air.
Yeah.
So always we need to thought about that.
Yeah.
In the rainy season it's gone more.
Yes.
In the dry season like the winter, it's getting low.
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is temperature, climate control. So your climate control warehouse will be one which you know what the fabric needs. You know the type of condition it needs. You know the type of condition that you're fighting against. And so you set your thermostat to work in such a way that even if you set it wrong, this is what you are doing from your algorithm. And even if you get it wrong, then the system will correct itself. Now I suspect I'm getting too much moisture here. Now I'm going to put the dehumidifier and get this out. So next, it's too dry. I'm going to send the humidifier out. And so the humidifier will put a little dampness in it. And therefore, you don't get, for example, the leather dry out too much. You don't get the material crimpling because of the dryness. You want it to be a standard. And so most cars, or modern cars, are built with climate control mechanism. And so even if you set it and you set it wrong, it will correct itself because it knows exactly what temperature you need. And it will check the temperature outside. It will check the humidity outside. And it will balance this on the inside. So all you need then is the automated system that will say, this is what you need, these are the already conditions, and you use your computer to do the programming. And as soon as you do the programming, then it works, it runs itself. And you set it, it overrides your setting because it knows what the condition it needs. And it costs you some money. But when you think in terms of the wastages, your losses, then you're going to recoup your losses in no time. Some third party already, many third party already provide this service. So if they provide, you can tap into it. If you have enough resources in terms of life cycle costing, then again, you can do that yourself. So the added value is that your items are going to be in the condition that your clients and customers will appreciate. This is great. It is lovely. See the smell of the leather. See the smell of the fabric. It's good. Just check it. It's great. Look at the presentation. It is really great. So this is something rather than depreciation. So you have the depreciation. Depreciation is you got to sell it as seconds because it's not the standard that you expect. You got to give reduction because it's down.